Much, Pedro. My name is Julie Love, and I work here at Revenue as the Manager of Recruitment and Retention, and we do these calls monthly. The session today that we're doing as a result of all of you. So at our last call in December, we did a short survey at the end of the call, and we asked you what you wanted more information about, what would help you, the callers. And the majority of people, there were, several people that put in the suggestion box, they wanted help with the application process and the interview process with the state of Illinois. So that's how we got here today. The team joining me, Brent Stice and Millie Atkins, are from our interview and selection department. So this is what they deal with on a daily basis. I know everyone thinks that I do the same thing, the interviews, because I'm recruiting, but we're actually kind of separated into two different sections. So they will join. I'm going to go through a couple of just basic slides. If you've been on the call before, it might be a repeat. If you have not, we want to make sure that you get a good history of revenue. So I'm going to share my slide deck and we'll get started. Hold on just a minute. There we go. So welcome. Today's session is on application and interviewing techniques. This is our disclaimer. I am not an attorney. I'm not here to give you any kind of tax advice whatsoever. I work in recruitment, and we're just here to share some basic information to help you navigate the application and the interview process. Department of Revenue, our mission is pretty basic. We are required by law to administer the taxes for the state of Illinois and to be a service or a body of knowledge for our Illinois taxpayers so that when they have questions, we can provide accurate, timely, reliable funding information to them. We have been around for a number of years. We were first legislated to be into business to process the motor fuel tax, and now we have over 80 taxes that we process. Here is the burning slide everyone loves, our locations. Our main headquarters is in Springfield, Illinois. However, we have offices at the following other locations. Now, we'll talk about this right up front. It'll come up again, I guarantee it. Everyone is asking about remote work. It truly depends on the position and the program area. Some of our areas, for example, the audit team, they can do their work at home. Some positions simply cannot. And when I give this example, then people go, oh yeah, I understand. If I'm processing your taxes, your Illinois tax return at my kitchen table, working remote, you don't want my neighbors coming in and seeing all of your confidential information on the table while I'm processing your tax return. So some jobs just cannot be done from home. It depends on the position and on the program area. We do have some, but it truly just depends. State of Illinois Department of Revenue, we look for a wide variety of individuals to hire. We get asked every single one of these calls we do, is there an age limit? No, there is not. We like to hire individuals that reflect the makeup of our state. So it doesn't matter how young or old, what your background could be. We hire anyone as long as you are qualified to do the job. Now, a few things, a lot of information on these next few slides. I'm only going to point out a couple of them. One of the greatest benefits for working not only at the state but Revenue is that 37.5-hour work week. It's called work-life integration. We believe in it strongly. We have a generous paid time off package. And one thing that the state offers that you probably won't find at a lot of other employers is a very generous parental leave, 12 weeks paid leave for our employees for parental leave. So that is a wonderful benefit for our employees. We have all the basics, health, vision, dental, life insurance, and extra programs that you can participate in. The most important thing on this slide is to note there's no waiting period for your health insurance. It kicks in on day one. There's not a 30, 60, 90-day wait period. So that's an amazing benefit for the state of Illinois employees. Under financial wellness, a couple of key ones, key benefits. Tuition reimbursement. Not every state agency has tuition reimbursement. Revenue does, and we pay up to $5,000 a year in tuition reimbursement. So I always encourage individuals to get your basic degree, come back to or start at Revenue, and let us pay for your master's degree or help you finish a bachelor's degree, depending on the job that you land at Revenue. We have several of our employees that have utilized that tuition reimbursement program. Millie is one of them. So it is a great, great feature. The other one is our retirement. So when you work for the state of Illinois, depending on your hire date, if you're a tier 1 or a tier 2, you get a actual pension from the state of Illinois. We also have a deferred compensation plan that is in addition to that pension program that we offer. I'm not sure what the sound issue is. If it is on your end, you might want to adjust the volume. I've
saying they can hear still.
Yeah, so it might just be you need to go out and come back in and join us. So I know others have confirmed they can hear me okay. So next slide is professional development. That is one of the key features that we at Revenue have over other state agencies. So we are a big believer in promoting from within. When you think about it, tax information is really a small niche market. There's not a lot of people that have a lot of tax information. And when you join here, particularly in our training titles, we give you all of the training on the job and classroom training that you need, and you start learning about the different taxes and how to process those. So as you work your way up at the agency, you are eligible for promotions because you gain that knowledge and take that with you as you advance in your career here. We just did a recent poll of our management team here, and of the 130 respondents, almost 70 of our employees that are in supervisory positions started at Revenue in a trainee title and have worked their way up. So our career advancement here is pretty amazing. Additional voluntary benefits, you can get these benefits at any state agency that you work at, not just Revenue. You pay out of pocket for these. They are a little bit discounted, but they're extra benefits that you can apply for here when you become an employee. Now, one free service that not a lot of people know about and we like to promote is the career counseling through Central Management Services, or CMS. They offer this free service. You can email them at this email address, and they will work with you to look at your resume, your background, experience, education, and help you find the job that you are most qualified for. Again, it's a free service, so we encourage you to participate in that program. We also have what's called the Disabled Worker Trainee Program. If that applies to you, I would encourage you to reach that out. And also Veterans Outreach Program. So a couple of different programs that are administered by CMS for all state titles. So if those apply to you, check those out. Now, today we're going to focus on revenue as far as jobs, and this is the landing page for our website. It is tax.illinois.gov. And when you land here, you would go to About IDOR, and it will take you to the Career Opportunities section. Once you land on that page, and I will tell you now, we're in the process of updating this section. So if you go there next week, it might not look the same. So we are in the right in the midst of enhancing our page. But today it looks like this, and the page or the link you would want to go to is job posting. You would click that, and it would take you to the page where our jobs are posted. And then you would look on that page for, I don't think I missed it. Nope. You would go to that page and look for the jobs that are actually posted right now. Now, a couple of reminders. Again, we have these calls monthly, or we try to. If you have ideas, please put those in the chat or at the survey at the end to help us. The best way you can look for jobs and stay in touch with us is by signing up with job alerts. You give us either an email or a phone, and we'll text you or email you when we post jobs. That's all. We won't send you any type of tax information, but that way you won't miss when jobs are posted. You can apply for state jobs often. You want to make sure your resume is more than 2 pages. You want to make sure you prepare for your interview. We'll talk a little bit about that today, and just be patient. It does take a little while to get a position with the state, just because our hiring process takes a little normal than it does in the corporate world or outside of the state. So with that in mind, I am going to switch over and turn it over to Millie and to Brent and let them take it away. Let me go in here. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know that I'm going to be able to mute myself without getting out of the PowerPoint. I think.
What if you hover over? There you go.
There we go. Figured it out.
All right, testing. I hope there's no backfeed for anybody. Thanks, Julie. As Julie said, I'm Brent Stice, and with me I have Millie Atkins, and we're with the interview and selection team here at the Illinois Department of Revenue. And as we're going to discuss a few application and interview techniques to help you in your pursuit of your state of Illinois position or career to find a position. While I'm going through the presentation, Millie is going to be available to answer questions you may have in the chat. So feel free to ask away while I'm presenting. So first, we'd like to go ahead and share a video that's going to give you a brief overview of what we will be discussing today. So if we can get that to play.
Bear with us. There we go. And one more. Oh, no, this one.
Yeah.
And let's see if it will let me. Yeah, it's, hold on.
You hit control and then now you should be able to just go over and click the link.
There we go.
Gonna do it now. You know what? I bet you it's gonna open it up into your web browser, so you'll have to stop sharing the slide.
And let's see if it will.
Go down to Edge. It's not showing it there either. Go back to the PowerPoint. Here, try clicking the video one more time.
See, I got it this morning.
You did.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we practiced this morning and it worked just fine. And it's,
Share mine.
yeah, we're gonna let Brett try to see if he can share.
And then what did I do?
It should open it in my pocket or Chrome. Well, that's not sharing, so you have to share this now. So stop sharing the PowerPoint and then go back to share Edge. Share computer audio. Okay.
And research the agency you're interviewing with to better understand their mission and how this position fits into that mission. The state of Illinois conducts interviews in 2 ways, either using WebEx or in person. If you are scheduled for a WebEx,
Spencer says, thank you, Spencer.
you must be on
He says
video
they can hear it.
you during your entire interview.
We all have our
Some
volumes
state
down.
agencies will have all interview panel members on video and others may not. If you do not have a computer, you can download the WebEx app to your smartphone prior to the day of your interview. It is recommended that you log onto the WebEx meeting at least 5 minutes prior to the start time of your interview to ensure that your video and microphone are all in working order. When you select Join WebEx Meeting, you can elect to use your computer microphone or call in. Now, we recommend calling in or to allow the WebEx to call you by entering your cell phone number to help reduce technical issues. Once you have joined the meeting, you may be notified the host isn't in the meeting yet. This means the panel is getting assembled and prepared for your interview. The host is aware you are in the virtual lobby. The host will allow you into the meeting once all panel members have been assembled, and you will be on video at this time. If you are scheduled for an in-person interview, please plan to arrive early in plenty of time to allow you to find parking and the correct entrance. Once in the interview room, please turn off electronic devices to minimize distractions. The interview will begin with an introductory overview. A panel member will provide you with member introductions, a brief overview of the position, total number of interview questions, the amount of time for the interview, and/or what the next steps of the interview will be. All state of Illinois interviews are structured interviews. Now, what does this mean?
It's done.
It means that the interview format will most likely be very different from any interview format you have participated in before. As a government entity, laws and requirements dictate how we must conduct interviews. A structured interview means the same question will be asked in the same order to each candidate. Unfortunately, we cannot rephrase the question, but can merely repeat it. Also, each panel member is required to take notes on the answers you provide so it can be compared to an answer key that was prepared in advance of the interviews. On WebEx, it might seem strange that the cameras are off and everyone is on mute. This is merely so you don't hear the typing and get distracted. In person, this might mean you watch the interviewers type or write as you are speaking. This may seem a bit disconcerting, but it is the method we are required to use for every interview. During or at the conclusion of the introductory overview, the interview questions will be placed in the chat area if you are participating in a WebEx interview, so you may follow along in reference during the interview. If you are in person for your interview, you should be provided a paper copy of the questions. Keep in mind, these questions are to be left with the panel after the interview concludes.
It's still going.
A few minutes to review the questions before the interview begins. When the
For
interview
being that long.
a panel member will ask you the first interview question. Once the question has been asked and you begin to answer it, the panel members will begin documenting your response. This is done by laptop, so the panel will be typing notes as you are responding. Once you have completed your response to the question, please let the panel members know when your response is complete. There will be a slight pause in conversation as the panel members will be completing their documentation of your response, so don't be alarmed by the brief silence. This same process will be followed for all of the interview questions. Now, here are some helpful hints. When answering interview questions, be thorough in your response and take your time. Most interviews are scheduled for 60 minutes and therefore gives you ample time to think about your response and reread the question to ensure you answered all parts. For example, instead of saying, "I completed transfer forms," you could say, "I completed the transfer form for 2 years while at ABC Company, which is used when employees are leaving one agency for another. The current agency uses this form to provide information to the new agency as it relates to the employee's health benefits, time balances, and payroll details." By explaining the purpose of the form, you have given the panel details that may not have been otherwise known. Be specific and detailed for each question. Sometimes an interviewee may not provide enough details in their response and assume that the panel has read and has use of the resume. Assume we know nothing about you or your background. Keep in mind that panel members can only rate what is said during the interview and not the resume or any other corresponding documents provided during the application. For example, rather than stating, "I perform janitorial work," instead say, "I performed janitorial work at ABC Company for 3 years and 5 months. This included vacuuming offices and other common areas, emptying trash, mopping and buffing floors, cleaning windows, mowing the grounds, and wiping down counters and desktops." After all interview questions, responses, and panel documentation, you will be informed that the interview is now complete. The interview panel member will read a short closing statement regarding the next steps in the process once all interviews have been completed. The panel will ask you if you have any questions. This is where you can ask any questions you have about the position, the agency, or even about the hiring process. Just a reminder, the timing of your interview may vary from agency to agency and whether the interview is in person or via WebEx. We wish you luck in your job search and look forward to meeting you in your interview.
Okay. Is the next one also a link in there or just basic? Okay,
Mhm.
I'll turn things over to
That's the
you.
only video.
Okay,
Paper 18.
I don't have this one. This one?
I don't see it. See anything on my screen?
Hold on.
All right. We tried our best with the technical aspect.
Um. No. Well, and now I think
Yeah, per share.
no, well, it's gone completely.
Oh, yeah.
So
What do you do? What happens if you click on another? Nope, nothing's there.
it is gone completely.
have to
So
reopen.
hold on. It's
Technology.
right there under that.
There you go.
It is.
Go right here. Yeah. Now double click. See if that'll.
Now, let's see. It is not.
You want to try to share?
Yeah, it is not.
Yep. So how do I make that full screen?
Go to slideshow.
Mm-hmm.
That should. That should.
There we go. Awesome. All right. So we're back, guys. Hope you had a good break there. But the first step of how to apply to state of Illinois positions is you're going to want to go to illinois.jobs2web.com. So I know a lot of you will want to take that down. I believe in the video they gave an old link to it, but currently it's illinoisjobs2web.com. And so step one, once you get into there, you're going to see this search engine come up. Once you're in there, you'll see a few options to begin your job search with the state of Illinois. You can click the sign in or sign up to create your profile, or you can search by keywords. You'll see that I went ahead and typed in revenue to see what type of revenue active postings there were for me to apply to. In that box, you can also type in HR, accounting, legal, whatever type of positions you're looking for. I know there's a lot of IT people on here. So if you type in specifically what you're interested in computers, positions will pop up for you as well. You'll see you can search by location. So Springfield, Decatur, Chicago, Root House. You can even type Cook County or Sangamon County and set a radius or miles you're able to drive from your current location. You can do it in a 25-mile radius, 50-mile radius of whatever specific town or county you're looking for. Or you can just click the search button and just see what positions are out there and click on the ones that you're interested in and read more about the position, see what the minimum qualifications are, preferred qualifications, and just see if the positions are a match. And then when you click, if you click on those, it will take you automatically to create your profile anyways. Whenever you're in to create your profile, there's just way too much on this screen for me to add it to a slide. And I didn't want to share my profile because there's a lot of personal information in there, but you'll just have to trust me. It's very self-explanatory once you're in to create your profile. It's going to tell you exactly what you need. It'll walk you through what is needed and where to attach your resume or cover letter once you're in there. And once the account is created, potential candidates will be able to complete their profile and save it. And make sure you save it once you're completed. And it's going to save you a lot of time in the future whenever you just sign in and see positions you want to apply to. You're already halfway, 3/4 of the way done. So it's quick and easy and seamless to apply to positions you're interested in. And you can always come back and update your profile as needed. But the first step is to upload your resume, cover letter, any other documents that support your qualifications, such as diplomas if it's required, or licenses and certificates, certifications. The candidate profile will be populated from information uploaded on your resume. So it's going to help you by filling out a lot of the information once you upload your resume, and you just go through and make sure the information uploaded correctly. And candidates should verify their information from previous jobs and education sections once they're completed. So make sure it's spelled Western Illinois University correctly, or has the correct dates in there. So a few helpful resume tips for the state is if you have an extensive work, hold on, how do I go back now? Arrow key, sorry. If you have an extensive work history with the same employer, list each position and title separately. It's going to show progression throughout your career. And this will allow us to review your complete work history. For the hiring agency to evaluate your work experience, please ensure that your resume includes complete and accurate descriptions of essential job duties for each position that you have held, and reporting on your profile. Your resume should indicate if a position included supervisory experience, provide details regarding your supervisory responsibilities, and indicate the number of staff you supervised. For military out there, make sure your military experience includes the date of services and duties assigned with each change in rank or title listed separately. And education section should include the name, city, and state of each institution attended. Anything else you can think of for that? So lastly is step 3 is click apply. And once a candidate locates a position, a posted position for which they'd like to apply, just click the apply button. For each position posted, there's going to be a section entitled job specific questions, and the application questions you'll see are required part of the application process. The application questions are designed to help CMS and us, the hiring team, hiring agency, evaluate all the candidates and ensure that we just want to make sure you ensure that all the questions are answered thoroughly. You're going to be asked a question, do you have X amount of experience doing X? And then once you click yes, the next question is, please explain where you gained that experience. And one thing we really want to stress today on today's call, where a lot of people fall in the hole, is they just want to put, please see resume, and fly through those questions. And that's putting the work on agencies. You know, whenever we get a bunch of resumes, and it'll just be zeroed out and your application won't be looked at. We really want to see your answer. We have subject matter experts that read through those to make sure you're the right match for the agency. So really answer those questions, or at least point it out where it'd be on your resume, that the subject matter expert could find it and verify that you do have that experience. So preparing for your state interview, congratulations. You're ready for your interview now. You've been emailed to schedule your interview date. So what I want to discuss is there are two types of interviews, in-person and WebEx. And for the main part, it's still WebEx. If it's a WebEx, you must be seen, so make sure you, ahead of time, make sure your camera and volume work on your PCs. If you can't get your camera to work on your PC, have it downloaded on your cell phone. You can download WebEx. We do a lot of interviews with people on their cell phones, and it works just fine. There's really no difference. In the emails we send out, and it's a good reminder, is make sure you log on 10 minutes prior to the interview, and you can test your video and microphone before entering our lobbies. That's a good indicator if the camera's going to work or not, and you can test. And it'll save that few minutes of trying to figure out your volume and camera. Once the interview panel members are ready, we're going to bring you into the room for the interview to begin. And we're going to read you a list of rules, like the video said. And typically interviews are 8 to 11 questions. And here at Revenue, we give an hour to get through your 8 to 11 questions. Plus, at the end, you'll have a moment where you can ask questions. So we try to leave plenty of room for your interview. Other agencies that would ask less questions or might give you 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And then I've seen interviews go an hour and a half. But here at Revenue, our staple is 1 hour, and we do 8 to 11 questions. So what is a structured interview with state of Illinois? It's a lot different if you've worked in the private sector than it is within the state. I have here a structured interview involves predetermined questions and in a standardized order that are meant to examine the knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs we call them, or preferred qualifications necessary for the role. So it's important to note that the interview is process driven, and it may be different from what you're used to. It may seem cold at times, and there's no time for rapport building, and notes are taken during your interview, and that feels awkward, and there's awkward silences in between questions. But I stress, don't be intimidated. Everyone is, but just go in knowing that what to expect. You're going to be evaluated on what you bring to the table and not whether you're from the same alma mater, like you maybe in a personal interview. Structured interviews in the workplace typically feature job-specific behavioral and situational questions. They help our agency assess whether the candidate have the technical skills, education, experience, and personality traits to excel in the vacant positions and workplace culture. So they are job-specific questions. We ask candidates about the duties and responsibilities related to the open position. Behavioral questions, where we ask candidates to share their professional experience. Situational questions, we ask candidates to imagine what they would do if they are faced in different scenarios working for an agency. So here are a few examples of behavioral interview questions. We would ask is, describe an experience where you managed a long-term project. How did you keep everything moving along in a timely manner? Please provide an example of a time you faced a conflict while working on a team. What steps did you take to address the situation? Describe a scenario in which you did not meet a client's customer's expectations. What happened? What strategies did you use to try and resolve the situation? What was the outcome? So one of the best ways to answer or respond to behavioral interview questions is a STAR method you may have heard of in the past. With the STAR method, describe your situation. Set the scene and explain a specific event or situation you were in. Task, describe the goal or responsibility of the situation. Action, explain the steps you took to address the situation. And finally, the result, share the outcome of your actions. You know, when I interview or interviewed, I'm a big storyteller. But before I wrap up my story at the end, I try to make sure it fit the STAR method. That way, the interview panel really gained a better understanding instead of trying to weed through my stories. But whenever you explain the situation, the task, action, result, it really eases the scoring for the interview panel members. I have here another type of question is our situational interview questions, which a situational interview question would sound something like, your first assignment is to develop a long-term plan for educational initiatives. In addition to any external resources you can identify, you have access to archives and staff members of the organization. Use your past knowledge and experience. Please walk us through your planning approach from beginning to end. And similar to the STAR method, a good way to answer situational type questions is to use the CARL method, which is context, action, result, and what you learned. So the context would be, we had a significant decline in user engagement in our mobile app. The action was first I, or next we, then give the result, and then what was the big learning lesson related to that question. Some extra interview tips are listen to the rules. The interviewer is going to read a statement before your interview begins with all the rules and instructions on how we're going to perform the structured interview process. These rules also include how to conduct yourself, the time limit, and how the interview will be structured for you. Answer each question fully. You don't know what the next question is going to be, so treat each question individually. Make sure you give the best possible answer to whatever it is you've been asked. There might not be another chance to provide any relevant information, and the interviewer cannot clarify, explain, or return to a question later. So best advice is, if you've answered a question, you feel like you've already used the example on the next question, don't just say, well, I've already told you in a previous question. Retell it. Don't feel like you're boring the interview panel members. If you don't say it, we can't score it. So repeat it. Add to that story. I've seen people fumble up and tell me about your educational experience, and then they're talking about all their certifications they answered. Very next question is, tell me about certifications you hold, and they just skip the question because they feel like they already answered it. Answer it again. Take your time. Take a deep breath and re-answer it. Use examples. While it might not always be possible, provide evidence of particular skills or competencies by linking it back to your actual experience when you can. Don't waffle. This is a big one, and it's hard not to, but just to make it easier for the interviews to score your response, keep your answers concise and to the point. Resist the temptation to waffle or include information that just isn't relative to the question. I see people get lost and veer to the left, and then it takes them a while to get back to their point, and it sometimes could lose the scoring panel members. And finally, list achievements. When responding to questions, focus on specific things that you have done. And even in cases of group and team projects, and focus on specific tasks or assignments. A lot of people are scared or reluctant to brag or toot their own horn during interviews for fear of coming across as arrogant or prideful. Don't. This is your moment to shine. This is your moment for the panel members to decide if you're the right guy for the job, especially in those leadership roles. Is there anything I'm missing? Real quick, Millie wants to share a slide about.
If you just want to share it, I can keep an eye on the chat. It's slowed down a little bit.
Oh, okay. So I mute now.
Okay, can everyone confirm that they can hear me, or just one or two people let you know in the chat? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so a lot of people wonder why they didn't get an interview. There can be several reasons for this. One of them could be if the position was filled contractually. So if the position you are applying for is a union covered position, we are required to try to fill that with current union state employees first before we would ever go to outside candidates. So what often happens is CMS will only grade, or they now call it validate, internal state of Illinois employees' applications first. And then our hiring division will try to fill that position contractually. If they are unable to fill it with a current union state of Illinois employee, then it gets passed over to what we call here interview and selection. And that's when it could be going to an interview. Another reason could be some positions are randomized. Here at our agency, we do have a few different positions that we randomize the list and we just give you conditional offers. Those could be our revenue tax specialist trainees, our revenue auditor trainees, our office assistants, data processing assistants. So in that case, CMS is only determining whether or not you're qualified, and then they take everyone that applied, put them into an Excel spreadsheet and randomize it. And then we have to reach out to everyone from number 1, 2, 3, and so on until we fill the vacancy. So if you're randomized and put at the bottom of that list, you may not be offered a position or an interview. The other one could just be the sheer number of candidates. When you do apply, I know Brent talked about the application questions. When you are filling out those questions and answering those, based on how you answer them, you are given a score. And then it's called you are stacked ranked after that. And the people that are invited to interview are the ones with the highest ranking. So those with the score of 100 would be offered an interview before someone with a score of 20, for example. Now, if we don't have a lot of candidates, if your overall score is a 0 or a 20, you may still get an interview. But if we have 200 applicants, we would only be taking those that have scored the highest. So those are a few examples of why you may not have received an interview. I know some of the chat, would you let us know that the position was filled by current employees? Unfortunately, here at the department, our agency doesn't notify you of that by sending out an email. However, if you check the status of your application on the application website, when it is closed and it's filled, you will see that it will show that your requisition has been closed and there's nothing further. If the position comes over to our side in interview and selection, we do let you know once it's been filled. Even if you don't get an interview, we still send out an email that simply just says, thank you for your interest. We're letting you know the position's been filled. That way you know it's been closed, just to give you an update. Speaking to timeframes from submissions, that's a tough one. Part of it is because CMS does grade the applications. If it's a union position and it has to be filled by the union first, those can take a couple of months before it even comes over to Brent and I in interview and selection. And then CMS has to then grade all of the external candidates. So that's an extra time. Right now, we're seeing about a 6 month time frame from when a position is posted to when it is filled. So yeah, unfortunately it's long, but we're seeing about 6 months. Let's see. I would submit multiple applications at once. Absolutely. Apply to as many jobs as you're interested in. I wouldn't do just one and then wait for an answer. I would apply to everything you're qualified for. Because the thing is, if you get offered a job, you can accept it. And then if you get offered the one you really, really want, you can always turn around and accept that one too. Accepting one position does not disqualify you from any other positions you've applied for. For Shannon's question about being in the union, it does depend on the position. We have union positions and merit comp, which in our agency are mostly our management type positions. Those are not covered by the union. For a general rule of thumb with our agency, when you're looking at our job postings, it does have, I think it says bargaining unit on it. If it starts with an RC, that's going to be a union covered position. Anything else out there's GB, CF, SV, different codes out there. Those would be merit comp. Those are not subject to the union. And so those ones automatically start with interview and selection. All candidates are combined at once. State of Illinois employees do not receive any preference for those positions.
It's a great question in here. How long does the posting closing do candidates get invited to interview?
So, and it depends. Union positions are longer because we have to try to fill it internally first. Lately, I've been seeing those have been about 3 to 4 months before there would be an option to interview. For our merit comp positions, since they're not covered by the union and they start with interview and selection, we can generally get interviews scheduled for those about a month and a half to 2 months after it closes. It just depends on how long it takes for CMS to grade those applications.
The question was, can you update the resume or application after it was submitted?
Here's the tricky thing. The answer to that is yes, you can. However, what we have been told by Do It is once you submit that application, it is final for what we see and what CMS sees when they're looking at your application. If you go in and edit it, I forget how they call it. I don't know how IT people. I think they call it like a screen capture or something like that. It'll show on your end you've changed it, but on our end it will not show that it's been changed. So I would not submit the application until you are confident that everything that's in there is what you want CMS and the agency to see. If you submit it before that and then go in later, we won't have that information. I saw someone asked about if you're required to start off in a trainee or similar position. No, we have hired Brent, for example, came in as the manager of the interview and selection team. He did not start as a trainee or a lower level title within the agency. Yes, that is true. If you want to become like a revenue tax specialist 1 or a revenue auditor 1, you have to start in the trainee of those first before you could promote. But some of our management positions do not require that. However, if it is something that's required, you'll see it in the minimum qualifications on the job posting. It'll tell you if you have to complete a trainee level title beforehand. You apply for non-union positions the same way through the website. All positions would be posted there, whether it's union or non-union. Let's see if there's anything else.
All of our interviews are WebEx.
Yes, occasionally we've done them in person, but the vast majority are done via WebEx. So if it's a Springfield position and you live in Chicago and you're interested in moving down, you would not have to travel to Springfield to interview. We could do it via WebEx. I did see someone posted about your resume might have to change after 6 months. You can always update your resume. It's just that when you submit your application, whatever was attached to your profile then is what will be seen with that application. If immediately after that you update your resume with more information, when you apply to your next position, that information will be seen. But you're always able to delete your resume, change it, and re-upload a more current one. That's something you can always do. It's just that, again, we only see what was on your profile at the time you submitted the application. Trying to see if there's anything else. If you have questions about an interview you did with our agency, you can always reach out to the individual that you did the interview with, and they can answer those questions. Oh, Michelle, that was a great question. You are not allowed to have notes during an interview. You are allowed to have a CMS 100, a CMS 100B, or your resume. I will warn you though, you will have to show that to the camera. So you will have to hold it up to your camera so we can see that is what you would be using, but you're not allowed to take any notes during the interview. Darren asked about relocation. Unfortunately, we do not reimburse for relocation expenses if you have to relocate. Yeah, unfortunately, the reasons are just the way that CMS has developed the hiring process. I think one of the biggest reasons, if I'm being brutally honest, is that CMS does have to grade every single application. So you could be applying for 500 office assistant jobs. They're looking at your application 500 times. So it's just the sheer number of applications that they receive takes a long time to grade. And then if there's preferred qualifications, we have to do a subject matter expert review to where we're trying to get the best qualified candidates to the interview status. And then we interview, but every step of the way, CMS is also involved. So everything we do, they're reviewing and double checking our work, and that adds time to it as well. We do have do-it positions in the building, but we don't hire for do-it. So if you have any, if you're interested in IT positions or do-it positions, you would want to look to do-it for that information. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Kieran. No, as long as you meet the minimum qualifications, you could be considered for the position. And that's the best way to start. If you're not sure if you're qualified or not, look at the minimum qualifications first. If you meet those, apply for the job. There could be preferred qualifications on a job posting. Those are not required. We would prefer that you have that experience, but you will still be considered even if you do not have that experience.
Disability with memory, can you offer accommodation for notes during the interview?
I would think that would be acceptable. That is something we would get our EEO officer and CMS involved in though, because CMS is the one that dictates we're not allowed to have notes. When you apply though, there is, I know it may seem intrusive, there is a question that asks about a disability, answer that truthfully, and then there is a question that asks if you need accommodations during an interview, list that accommodation in there. That way everyone can see it up front and we can get approval for that before your interview takes place.
I'm going to ask a question about should I change my resume to fit a clerical position so she could get in?
You could try to change your resume. I would, if there's certain clerical skills you want to highlight, certainly add those. But in all honesty, I would just have all of your job duties from every position that you've ever held, because CMS is going to look through that when they're trying to determine whether or not you are qualified. So the more information, the better. The more detailed you are, the better.
And Deidre asked if I interviewed for a position almost 8 months ago. Have not heard anything back, even a thank you letter. Unfortunate. I don't know if it was with us or another state agency.
If you have the contact information for the individuals that interviewed you, I would reach out to them. They should be able to give you an update.
Brendan asked what positions we have at revenue specifically, and I think the easiest thing would be to look at the job postings and just open them all up and read each job posting to kind of get an idea of what positions are available. Also go to CMS and work with their counselor
Mhm.
to see what your education experience maps onto all the jobs with the state, because we don't know all the jobs with the state of Illinois.
And they will do that. They'll review your resume. They could set up meetings with you, and then they can let you know what positions you're qualified for, and then you can keep an eye out for that. You can even set up job alerts through the website. So that way, when a position like that is posted, you get an email notifying you of that. So you can go to the website and apply. We do not offer part-time positions.
You would?
Sorry.
Central Management Services.
Mhm.
Basically,
Yes, CMS governs our hiring. They are kind of the umbrella and govern everything else, every agency in the state. There are trainee positions located in the Chicago area. Those would be our revenue tax specialist trainees, our revenue auditor trainees, and then revenue special agent trainees. But yes, there are positions there available in Chicago. If you set up job alerts through the system, you could be notified when those get posted.
Question of, if I begin as a trainee, what's the typical length of time in that position before moving up to a higher level?
Generally speaking, it's 12 months. With our revenue auditor trainee, it is now 9 months. And unfortunately, they're all slightly different, but you would, after that 9 to 12 months, you would promote to the next title, assuming you're meeting your objectives. And then you would be in that title for 2 to 3 years, depending on the title it is. And then you could promote up to the next highest title. Shannon, no, you're not notified where your rank is within the scores, unfortunately. I wouldn't say, and Julie can jump in, I know she's on our DEIA committee. We're not necessarily bound by DEI requirements. You have to be qualified to get a position. I will say though that veterans do still receive preference. They get extra points added to their scores as long as CMS can verify their veteran status. But that is one thing that would get preference.
About the hourly rate or salary for the jobs posted on each opening, and yes, we are required to put the salary for each of the positions.
Yes.
The union jobs are mandated by the union, so we don't have control over that. So there's a little bit more flexibility with the merit comp jobs, but the union, we are bound by the union contract of which jobs or which salary applies to which job.
Yes, that is correct. Generally speaking, we won't have an hourly rate. You'll see a monthly and annual salary for every job that's posted.
And I know I'm a little muffled. I'm trying to read the question so we can discuss them, all of us. But Marcy asked about what is name-only background check. Sorry, I've not heard of that. Just credit and criminal. And I don't know. Do either of you know?
I'm not sure. For our agency, anyone that wants to work here has to first meet a tax compliance. So you have to have filed and paid all of your taxes. And then you are fingerprinted, and there is a state and federal criminal background check that's conducted.
On that same note, Mary asked about the power test for the agents here.
Yes, it's the same power test that's used by the Illinois Law Enforcement Trainings and Standards Board. So there's a chart out there that I'm assuming you could just Google it and find the chart. But there is a chart, and you would have to meet those requirements based on your age. I can't really speak to the specific background requirements. It's our internal affairs division that does the criminal background check, so they officially clear you or not. One thing I can let you know right off the bat, we have a daycare here in the building. So if there is, if you are a registered sex offender, that's an automatic no because of the daycare that's in the building. But other than that, it's really just going to depend on what your background looks like. And our internal affairs division will review that and make the location or make the determination.
Well, we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank everyone. Whoops, let me try this. Can you mute Millie?
I want to thank everyone for your time this morning. Again, this recording will be on our web page, tax.illinois.gov. It usually takes about a week or so, depending on the availability of the OPM team, to get it posted up there. There are other multiple calls that we have done, so you can go back and listen to and review the notes and get questions answered from those other calls. There is a short survey at the end of this presentation. If you could take a few minutes and fill that out, and then let us know if there are topics that you are interested in. You all asked great questions today, and lots of them, so we greatly appreciate that. And your feedback is what helps drive what our next topic is and kind of what we focus on. So we really appreciate that. Thank you for your time this morning. Hope you have an amazing day, and see you next time. Bye-bye.